Well, welcome back. So for this month's Technique Tuesday, I'm going to go over some hand stitching. I am specifically going to talk about hand stitching, some fun stitches that can be used in your mixed media work. Fun and easy, really easy, if you're interested in doing hand stitching. And then at the end, I'm going to use all of my samples in a ICAD. So right now ICAD is going on, and if you want to know more about ICAD, you can look down below in the description box about what ICAD is. It is a mixed media, well, specifically mixed media ICAD, and regular ICAD is going on, and I'll talk about both below in the description box. But it's a 2-month challenge that always happens in June and July. So the first stitch we're going to start off with is what's called a chain stitch. So I have a regular embroidery needle. This is embroidery needles usually have a real long eye. This one's a moderate eye, but I was able to get all 6 strands of this DMC floss in, well, it's a regular white. I was able to get all 6 strands through. I don't have time to just be untwirling it, so I generally always work with all 6. It just makes for a little bit bulkier. So usually you can tie off your end. Not all embroidery stitches do that, but I'm going to for my purposes here. And I'm not doubling over because this is already going to be pretty thick. So with a chain stitch, you come through from the back to the front. And so I've already started, so this is starting point 1. And what you're going to do is you're going to go back in right next to where you came through. And for the length that you want your chain, you're going to come up, but then you're going to take your thread and go around and then make the pull. And it's easier if you kind of hold your fabric a little tauter, and that's your first chain. And then we're going to come back in right next to where that original stitch came up, and we're going to go down, and again we're going to go around the needle and press through. Now you can see I kept my stitch kind of far, I went in kind of far so it doesn't make a whole link, but that is the basic chain stitch. Go back in right next to it, come up, go around, pull a taut, and there's the chain. The neat thing about the chain stitch is that you can create designs, really. You can make a daisy. I could turn around right now and come back through. So I'm going to go back in right next to where my stitch was, and I'm going to come back up through to create the beginning line and go back the other direction. So I'm going to come right next to it and the same distance for my link of my chain and come back up, and then come right next to it, same length, bring my thread down, and I could keep going and make a whole square out of this. Or you could do a circle, or you can make daisies. So we're gonna come right back down right next to it, the length, wrap our floss around the needle, and create the chain. And that is a chain stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, to tie this off, I'm going to go through just over the loop. To hold that down, because we need to hold that link down. And then I'm going to tie this off in the back. I'm just going to bring it through. I'll leave kind of a long tail so that when I use this in something, I'll make sure to adhere that down with it. So that is a chain. And that could be quite fun. You could, you can do something like, put a knot in this real quick. Come through, and we're gonna go right next to it. Bring it out, go around, and make our link. And then we're going to go back in, secure our link at that end, and then we're going to come back up, down at the center of where we started, right next to it to make our next chain. Loop it around the needle. And then we got to secure that chain, which I made a little bit smaller, by going back in. And I'm going to come back up through to start my next chain. I'm going to go back down right next to it and measure my link, wrap, and pull. Secure. And then come in from our next link, come back down right next to it, measure our link, wrap without skewering yourself, and pull. Secure the link. Come back up for our last circle, our last chain. Go back right next to it. Measure the link. Wrap. Pull. Secure. And now we have a daisy made out of a chain link. So that's a fun one to use in hand stitching within your mixed media artwork. I am definitely not an embroiderer, but I like to use hand stitching and have options for awesome mark making along the way. So that's the first of our stitches that we're gonna go cover today. All right, the next stitch that I'm gonna do is called a blanket stitch. And this, I have a knot at the end of my thread. It is not doubled over. Here's my other tail. Okay, so we're gonna come up from the bottom and we're gonna come at the bottom and loop up, and we're going to, similar to our chain stitch, we're gonna loop over the needle and pull up. And we're gonna do that again. So distance from the first dash up to our top, wrap our needle and up. That is called a blanket stitch. So distance over, distance up, wrap and pull. And you can see that one was a little bit further out, but you could see how these could make fun marks for your mixed media. So we're going to do that again. Our distance over, up to our distance at the top, wrap, pull. Space at the bottom, distancing it, our measurement up to the top line, which that may have been a little short, and wrap. And that is the blanket stitch. And then to tie this off, you just go to the outside of that loop, go back through. You can see it secures it. And then you just tie it off like you normally would, going through, making a knot, and then you can secure it in your artwork. And there we have the blanket stitch. So the next one we're gonna get into, but I'm gonna first create an ICAD. So for mixed media ICAD today, the prompt is hand stitching. And so I'm gonna use these in my ICAD. So I'm gonna create the artwork for that, and then I'm going to show you another stitch within that artwork. So that's what we're gonna do next. Let me get my space prepared for arting. Okay, this next stitch I'm going to show you is called a back stitch, and we're going to tie a knot and not double our thread over, and we're going to come up through the back. And we're going to make our length, and this is going to be challenging through this card, and we're going to come back up the distance that we want to make our stitches. And then we're going to come back to that hole that we came through and then come up whatever we want our distance to be of that stitch. So it makes a continuous line. So again, back through that hole from where that stitch ended, past where this stitch comes out, create our length. Oops. That one's gonna be a little shorter. And that creates our length. Through the hole where the last completed stitch ended, past this exit, make our length, and pull. Back through where our last stitch ended, past our exit to whatever we want our length, and pull. Back through where our last stitch ended, beyond where we came out, create our length, and pull. And then when you want to end, you could end with changing direction, having a space there, or you just come back to the original, go through without making our stitch, and then tie off on the back like we normally would. I'm gonna do two just because this is exposed, and in case I want to tape it, leave that length. And that is a back stitch, and then we have like a little flap, or I might end up gluing that down. Now this I've glued down, but I've left the sides kind of up. I didn't glue it everywhere. So that's the back stitch. So now I'm going to do a little bit more arting. Okay, our next stitch is a French knot. Now, a French knot can be kind of challenging. So you need a knot, and this might not be enough length, but we're going to give it a try. So you're going to come up from the bottom. I think I want to kind of give this some texture here and kind of fold it over. There we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, holding it tight. Okay, I give that a go again. Come up, through, and now pulling this to the side with your needle pointing away from your work, you're going to wrap it. 2, 3, 4. And you're going to still hold it taut. You're going to go back down, either through the same hole or near it, all keeping this taut. You don't want to pull too hard. You're going to go down and through. If I can get it back through that hole. Oops. And there's your knot. The key really is holding it taut, but not too taut, and keeping your needle at an angle. That's not what I was doing the last time, I don't believe. So I'm going to come up through this fabric. This thread is getting awfully small here. It's getting challenging. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can reduce the number of wraps up to 2 if you want it to be a small knot. And then you're going to come back down and go back through, holding this taut, pulling through. If you're having a big problem getting through, then you might be pulling it too taut. And there. And that is a French knot. Now it takes some practice. As you can see, I was struggling there for a bit. So I'm going to do one more. If I possibly have enough thread here. Okay. So, 1, this could be a challenge. 1, 2. We're gonna make one with 2 because I think that's the only amount I can wrap. 1, 2. Okay, and hold it taut. Go back through. Oh, my needle came off, but you can still pull that thread. And there, that one's a little bigger. I don't know why. I think I got it pulled through at a different rate. But that is a French knot. So those are 4 fun stitches. Did we do 4? One, 2, 3, 4. We did do 4.
I can feel